This is a video on how to create one row stripes in the round. They're also called Helix Stripes because they go around and around and around. There's no beginning or end except for where you start and the very last change. This is with just two colors right here, and you can see that they just go around and around. And then up here I added a third color, added the red in here, and again they just go around and around. No beginning or end. It's like a spiral or helix until you come to the end of the color. This video is going to show how to do both of these, as well as how to weave the ends in, which is a big part of making them look nice and tidy at the end. So why would you want to learn this technique? Well, this would be really cute for socks. I've also used it for the crown of a hat. You can see this hat here. This has a stripe here, and then it has this helix knitting for the crown. You can see it just goes around and around and around and ends in a circle at the top. So where did the white yarn start? Let's see. There it is, right there. You can see the very beginning of the white. This is where it started. Also, if you're ever knitting a sweater or a larger garment that requires you to work two yarns simultaneously to keep your colorway intact, or if you're using hand-painted yarns, hand-dyed yarns, and you're knitting a sweater and you want to mix the colors to avoid pooling or sudden color changes from skein to skein, you'll want to work with two yarns. Work one yarn around in one yarn and then you switch to the other. This is where I've switched. This is where my working yarn is over here, but this is where I've switched, is at this marker. So all along here, this is where I've made my color change in the exact same way that you'll see, and it's totally invisible all the way down the side of the sweater. That's why you would like to learn how to do this. So let's see, how do you do it? This is the start of adding the contrast color for the single row stripes. I've worked over to where I'm kind of in the center of my work. It's easier to make the color changes on a needle rather than where the needles change. So we're going to take our second color and we're going to bring it in right here. But first we're going to put a marker on this needle. And then we're just going to knit with the contrast color for a full round. So I'm just going to knit all the way around with the green. So we're coming up to the end of that first round with the green. We're coming to the marker. Now that last white stitch that we did is going to be loose because that yarn has no tension on it. It's just hanging on the back of the work, but we're not going to let that bother us. We're just going to go ahead and knit into that stitch. Then we're going to slip the marker. Now this is the important part. We're just going to drop the green yarn straight back. We're going to pick the white yarn up from underneath so that they are not crossing on the back of the work. The green and the white do not cross. That's very important. Now you're going to look at that last white stitch and you want to tighten the tension just enough so that stitch is the same size as the other stitches. You don't want to pull it tight because that'll give you a funky looking column of stitches where we make the color change. So we just tighten it up to the same tension. Now that first green stitch is loose too because the tail is just hanging there, but we can adjust that tail to make that stitch the right size too. So we're going to knit all the way around in the white. Now we're almost finished with that first white round after the color change. We're coming up to the last green stitch and the marker. Again, that green stitch is going to be loose because there's no tension on the tail of the yarn. We're going to slip the marker, then drop the white to the back, pick up the green, from directly underneath so that the white and the green do not cross. Then you tighten up the green stitch to match the tension of the other stitches. You don't want it too tight. And you work across in the green. We're going to work all the way around in the green. So here we are coming to the end of that second green round. We're doing the last of the white stitches. We're going to slip the marker, drop the green to the back, pick up the white from directly underneath, and make sure that they're not crossing. Adjust the size of the white stitch and knit another round. I've now completed several more rounds, so let's stop for a moment and take a look and see what's happening here. You can see we started down here with the green yarn. There's the first stitch, the tail's here, and you can adjust the size of that tail, of that stitch, by pulling on this tail or pulling on the stitch to open it up a little bit if it's too small. And so this is where we did our first color change to the green, then we changed to white, green, and so on. Here's the marker. The last stitch of each round is before the marker, the first stitch is after the marker. So let's look at the other side. You can see on this side all the stitches look nice and even, good tension. If we look on the other side, here's the marker right here. So we know that that color change is right here. Here's the tail of our green. That's our first green stitch right there. You can also see that the yarns were not twisted on the back side, so the rounds go continuously around. There is no beginning or end to any round. So now we'll take a look and try this with a third color. This is our first marker where we were changing from our white to the green. So we're going to add our third color on the opposite side, halfway around the stitches. So once I work over to here, I'm going to put a marker here, and then we'll start with the third color. So now we've worked halfway across the back of the work. We're going to place a marker. We're going to drop the green yarn. We're going to pick up the red yarn without crossing it with the green. And we're going to knit to the next marker, which is on the other side. We're not going to knit a whole round, we're going to knit a half round. Here we are back at our first marker with our last white stitch. We're working it in red. We're going to slip the marker. We'll drop the red back, pick up the white from underneath, make sure that they are not crossing on the back of the work, that they're separate. Adjust that white stitch to the right size, and we're going to knit to the next marker. As you can see, you could do this with any number of yarns. You just work from marker to marker. Now we're catching up with the second marker. We're working the last green stitch, slip the marker, hold the white to the back, pick up the green from underneath so that they're not crossing, adjust the green stitch size, and work to the next marker. So I'm going to work several rounds now so that you can see the effect of the 3-row stripes, 3-color stripes. So here we are with the finished result. I worked several rounds in the 3 colors, as you can see. And this is where the stitch marker is right after this stitch here. You can see this is where we started the green right here. In this type of stripe, you are going to have that first and last stitch that won't match up. That's the nature of this. If you tried to make a jogless jog here, it would ruin the rest of these helix type stripes. So that's the side where we started the green, and here's the side where we started the red. We started and stopped. Now you can see that those first and last stitches are kind of wonky looking, including the stitches right below. And that's because the tail has not been woven in yet. And it is important to weave that tail in such a way that it makes this nice and even across here. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So we're going to turn the work inside out. Here's that red tail. You can see that the white stitch that it's coming through is only attached on one side, and that's what gives that white stitch in the row below that funky look. It doesn't look nice. So we're going to fix that. We'll thread the tail onto the tapestry needle. And we're going to pull it this way. We're going to be weaving in this direction, going this way. And we're just going to do a duplicate stitch right through here. Using about the same tension as the surrounding stitches. We don't want to pull it tighter, and we don't want to leave it bulky. And I just do 2 or 3 stitches. That's enough to secure it. So I'm just doing a duplicate stitch. Let's see what that looks like. Let's turn it over. That looks good. Now the white stitch here, you can see that looks a little big. It's the one that corresponds with this row right here. So we can still adjust that by pulling on this yarn and redistribute that a little bit and adjust it this way a little bit. And it's okay to do this with a tapestry needle and even it up. So let's go back to the one time. You can see how the column where right between the 2 columns where we changed, all those stitches are the right size. That's what makes it look invisible. Same thing on the other side. Here's the first stitch, here's the last stitch, so the column right in between is where we did all of those color changes. Because we did not cross the yarn on the back side, it allows the color just to go straight across without any type of jog. Let's look at the inside again. You can see even on the inside that all the stripes go straight across because we did not make those changes. We did not twist the 2 yarns across the back. If you like my videos and my teaching techniques, you may want to subscribe. You can hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel. I have a lot of other educational videos. I love teaching knitting. Happy knitting!